Billionaire's son pretends to be homeless, then meets the girl of his dreams. The evening sky hung low over the city, heavy with dark clouds that looked ready to burst. Cars rushed past with bright lights horns echoing through the narrow streets. On a cold corner near the bus stop, a young woman stood with a thin jacket pulled tight around her body. Her name was Mia, and she looked like someone who tried hard not to look defeated, even when life pushed her down again and again. She held a small plastic bag with day-old bread inside. Her hands were red from the wind, and her eyes carried the quiet exhaustion of someone who had been strong for too long. People rushed by without noticing her. To them, she was just another struggling girl on another hard night. But then she saw something strange on the other side of the street. A young man in dirty clothes sat on the ground beside a trash bin. His hair was messy, and he kept rubbing his hands together for warmth. He looked lost, like someone who didn't know where he belonged. At first glance, he seemed homeless, someone who had been living on the street for days. But there was something unusual about him, too. His posture, his eyes, his way of looking around. It didn't match his worn clothes. Mia watched him for a moment. Something in her heart pulled her closer. Maybe because she knew what hunger felt like. Maybe because she had seen too many people fall through life's cracks. Or maybe because she sensed that behind his rough look, there was a story she didn't understand yet. The narrator stepped in gently. Have you ever seen someone who looked broken and wondered what led them there? What would you do if one small act of kindness could change everything? Mia took a small breath and crossed the street. She walked until she stood in front of the young man. He lifted his head, surprised. His brown eyes were tired but clear, as if he'd been awake for days. Hi, Mia said softly. You look cold. Do you need something to eat? The young man hesitated. His throat moved as he swallowed. I'm fine, he said, but his voice was weak and shaky. You don't look fine, she replied, trying to smile. She held out the plastic bag. Take this. It's not much, but it's something. He looked at the bread like it was a treasure he didn't deserve. Slowly, he took it with both hands. Thank you, he whispered. Really? Mia nodded. What's your name? He hesitated again, as if deciding whether to lie or tell the truth. Daniel, he said at last. Mia, she replied. Nice to meet you. A sudden loud crash burst from the end of the street. A car skidded, followed by shouting voices. Mia turned toward the noise with wide eyes. Something was happening. She looked back at Daniel, who was already rising to his feet, alert in a way no ordinary homeless man would be. And in that moment, Mia realized something was very wrong, or very important. The crash at the end of the street turned out to be only a small accident. A motorbike had slipped on wet pavement and hit the side of a parked car. People rushed over, someone called the police, and soon the noise became just another part of the city night. Mia stood there for a moment, watching the scene, her heart beating fast. Beside her, Daniel shifted his weight and pulled the bread closer to his chest, like he was afraid someone might take it away. I should go, Mia said finally. My mom is waiting for me. Daniel nodded. Thank you. For this, he said, holding up the plastic bag. She smiled a little. Just eat okay. It's cold. Don't sleep out here hungry. He looked at her as if he wanted to say something more, but he only whispered, Okay. Mia gave him one last look, then turned and walked toward the bus stop. Her shoes were thin, and she could feel the cold of the ground through the soles. While she waited for the bus, she thought about Daniel's eyes. They didn't look like the eyes of someone who had always been poor. There was something careful, trained, almost polished in the way he spoke. But she pushed the thought away. Life was strange. People ended up on the street for all kinds of reasons. The bus rattled and shook as it carried her to the edge of the city where the tall buildings ended and small broken houses began. When she got off, the night was quieter. Only a few street lamps worked, and they gave a weak yellow light. Dogs barked in the distance. Somewhere, a baby cried. Mia walked along a narrow alley, stepping around puddles. She reached a small old apartment building with peeling paint and rust on the metal gate. She climbed the stairs to the third floor, breathing harder, feeling the day's tiredness in her legs. Inside their tiny room, her mother sat on the bed coughing softly into a cloth. The room held a single bed, a narrow mattress on the floor, a small table and a hot plate for cooking. A cracked window let in a thin line of cold air. On the wall there was one photo, old and slightly faded, of Mia's family when things were better. "Mama, I'm back," Mia said, closing the door behind her. Her mother looked up with a tired smile. "You're late," she said. "Did you eat?" A little, Mia lied. There was extra bread at the cafe. Her mother's eyes moved to the plastic bag in her hand. "What's that?" "Oh, this," Mia lifted it. "I gave it to someone. He needed it more." Her mother shook her head gently. "You always give things away," she said, but there was no anger in her voice, only worry. "I'm fine," Mia said, going to the small sink to wash her hands. The water was cold. "How are you feeling?" "Any fever," a little, her mother admitted. "But we don't need to think about that now." Mia dried her hands on a towel and crossed the room. She touched her mother's forehead with the back of her fingers. It did feel warm. "We need more medicine," Mia said. "That syrup is almost finished." Her mother looked away. "We don't have money for that now." "I'll get it," Mia said quickly. "I have one more shift tomorrow. Mr. Patel said maybe I can work extra hours next week." Her mother sighed. "You work too much already." "I have to," Mia answered softly. "The rent is due soon." She didn't say how scared she was. The landlord had already warned them twice. He didn't like sick people in his building. He didn't like late rent. One more delay and he might kick them out. Mia prepared a simple dinner: rice and a little soup with some vegetables. While the pot boiled on the hot plate, she handled the small pile of coins from her pocket and counted them under her breath. "It's okay," she said, more to herself than to her mother. "We'll manage." Her mother watched her. "You're a good girl, Mia," she said softly. "Your father would be proud." Mia's chest tightened at the mention of her father. He had died 3 years ago in an accident at a construction site. One moment he had been healthy and strong, coming home with dusty clothes and a tired smile. The next moment he was gone, and everything in their life fell apart. She forced a smile. "Eat something, Mama." They ate side by side on the bed, sharing the small bowl. Her mother took only a few bites before pushing it back. "You eat," she said. "You need your strength." Mia shook her head, but her mother insisted. In the end, they shared it almost equally. Later that night, when her mother slept, Mia lay on the thin mattress on the floor, staring at the ceiling. The paint above her was cracked, and she could hear their noisy neighbors arguing through the wall. She thought about the future and felt a knot of fear in her stomach. What if she lost her job? What if her mother's illness got worse? What if they couldn't pay rent? The questions circled in her head like dark birds. But she also thought about the man on the street, Daniel, his careful voice, his grateful eyes. She felt strange about it. She didn't have enough even for herself yet. She had given away food. Still, she would do it again. She knew what hunger felt like. She couldn't ignore it in others. The next morning, Mia woke up before sunrise. She put on her simple work clothes: black pants, a white shirt, and a black apron. Her shoes were clean but old. She tied her hair back in a ponytail and kissed her mother's forehead. "I'll be back after my shift," she whispered. "Call me if you feel worse, okay?" Her mother nodded sleepily. "Be safe, my child." Mia rushed to the bus and then to the cafe, where she worked as a waitress and cleaner. The cafe was small but busy. The smell of coffee and fresh bread filled the air. She cleaned tables, carried plates, smiled at customers, and tried to ignore her tired feet. Mr. Patel, the owner, watched her move around with sharp eyes. "You're a hard worker, Mia," he said once as she wiped down the counter. "But I can't promise more hours yet. Business is slow." "I understand," she said quickly. "I'm just thankful to have this job." Around midday, a regular customer, an older woman named Rosa, came in. She always ordered the same thing: tea and a small sandwich. Rosa liked to talk. "You look tired today," dear Rosa said as Mia placed the cup in front of her. I'm okay, Mia replied, forcing a smile. Just a long week. Rosa studied her face. How is your mother? She's managing, Mia said. We need more medicine, but I'll figure it out. Rosa sighed and touched her hand briefly. You have a good heart. Don't lose it even when life is cruel. The day stretched on, filled with dishes, orders, and small, polite smiles. When her shift was finally over, Mia stepped outside the cafe, feeling the weight of her body. On the wall near the door, there were some new posters that she hadn't noticed in the morning. One of them caught her eye. It was bright and clean with a serious logo at the top, Hayes Group. Under the logo in bold letters it said, Scholarship and Work Program for Underprivileged Youth. Opportunity to study and work in one of the country's leading companies. Limited spots. Apply now. Her heart skipped a beat. Hayes Group. She had heard that name many times. It was everywhere in the news, on billboards, on products in supermarkets. A giant company. Billionaire people. A different world. She stepped closer and read the smaller text. They were looking for young people from poor backgrounds, giving them a chance to work and study, training, education, and maybe even a real career. Someone opened the cafe door behind her, and Mr. Patel stepped out, locking it. You're interested in that? He asked, noticing where she was looking. Mia laughed nervously. It's for smart people, she said. I only finished high school because my father pushed me, and there's probably a lot of competition. Mr. Patel shrugged. Maybe. But you're not stupid, Mia. You're quick. You learn fast. Why not try? She looked at the poster again. The words, Change Your Future, were printed at the bottom. Her fingers itched to grab one of the small tear-off slips with the website and phone number. What if I fail, she whispered. Mr. Patel sighed. Then you are exactly where you are now. Nothing lost. Slowly, Mia reached out and tore off one of the little slips. She folded it carefully and put it into her pocket like it was something fragile. Maybe I'll try, she said. As she walked home that evening, the small piece of paper felt heavy in her pocket. She didn't know that the name Hayes was not just a company logo from a faraway world. It was also the family name of the young man she had fed the night before, the man pretending to be homeless, whose true life she had not yet seen. And soon their worlds would collide in a way she could never imagine. High above the city in a glass tower that shone even under gray clouds, Daniel Hayes stood in front of a long window. The office behind him was quiet, filled with expensive furniture, cold colors, and the faint sound of the air conditioner. Yet Daniel's eyes didn't rest on any of it. They were fixed on the streets far below, small, busy, noisy streets that felt more real to him than anything inside this perfect building. He wore clean clothes now. His hair was neat, his face was calm. But inside he felt the same heaviness he had felt the night before, when he sat on the cold pavement, pretending to be someone he wasn't. His father, Lawrence Hayes, a billionaire known across the country, had ordered him to take a reality test. A test Daniel hated. You grew up with everything his father had said weeks earlier. Money, comfort, security. That's why you don't understand real people, Daniel. How can you lead this company one day if you don't know how life feels at the bottom, Daniel had argued. He had been angry, hurt even, but his father didn't listen. So Daniel had spent the last 2 days wearing old clothes, walking the streets, and sleeping in one of the company's unused shelters. He was supposed to learn. Instead, he had met Mia. Her face kept returning to his mind. Kind eyes, warm voice, a simple smile, even when she clearly had nothing to spare. She had given him food before he even asked. She looked tired, poor, and worn down by life, but she still found a way to help him. A soft knock came on the office door. Daniel, are you coming to the meeting? A voice asked. It was Amelia, his father's assistant. She looked polished and impatient, like someone who never missed a deadline. Daniel turned away from the window. Yeah, he said. I'm coming. They walked down the hallway to a large conference room where the senior team was gathered. His father sat at the head of the table, tall, stern, and powerful. His eyes were sharp, always calculating. Daniel Lawrence said, not bothering to hide his annoyance. "You're late." "I know," Daniel replied quietly. Lawrence pressed a button, and a presentation appeared on the screen. It showed images of poverty-broken homes, jobless youth, the kind of problems Hayes Group claimed to help solve with their programs. "As you can see," Lawrence said, "our charity division needs stronger leadership. If you want responsibility in this company, you need to understand these people." Daniel clenched his jaw. "I understand enough." "No," his father said sharply, "you don't. If you did, your decisions wouldn't be so naive." The meeting went on. Numbers, plans, targets. Everything felt cold. Every word felt heavy. Daniel's mind drifted back to the street, to the moment Mia had handed him bread. Her world felt more real than any chart or percentage on the screen. When the meeting ended, he stayed behind. His father didn't look up from his laptop. "You didn't learn anything out there, did you?" Lawrence said. Daniel took a slow breath. "I learned that people are trying harder than you think. I learned that kindness can come from someone who has nothing." Lawrence finally looked at him. "Feelings don't run a company. Discipline does." Daniel stared at the floor. Every conversation with his father felt like this heavy, cold, painful. After leaving the conference room, he didn't return to his office. He walked to the elevator, rode to the ground floor, and stepped outside into the fresh air. He needed to think. He hadn't meant to meet Mia that night. He definitely hadn't expected her to stay in his mind afterward. But she had. She looked at him like he wasn't worthless, like he wasn't the disappointing son of a billionaire, as his father had once called him during an argument. He walked along the sidewalk, passing busy crowds and honking cars. He remembered Mia's thin jacket, her tired hands, her gentle voice asking if he needed food. She had been struggling, he could tell. And now he felt the strange urge to see her again, not because he pitied her, but because she made him feel human. He stopped when he reached a small square where people sold fruits and old books. He stood there looking around as if he might see her among the crowd. "Why do I even care?" he whispered to himself. "Because she treated you like a person, not a failure, not a rich boy, not a disappointment, just a person." He sighed and walked toward a bench. Before he sat down, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his cousin Lucas. "Heard you're doing Dad's stupid homeless challenge. How's the experience so far?" Daniel rolled his eyes and put the phone away. But then he noticed a new message, one from the Hayes Foundation team. "Reminder: scholarship candidate interviews begin next week." A slow breath left his chest. Scholarship, Hayes Group, interviews. His eyes widened. Wasn't that the same poster Mia had been looking at? He stood up quickly. His heart started beating faster. If Mia applied, their worlds would cross again. He wasn't sure if he hoped for it or feared it. Maybe both. Meanwhile, several miles away in her tiny apartment, Mia sat on the floor beside her mother, filling out the online application for the Hayes Scholarship. Her fingers trembled as she typed. She didn't know if she had a real chance, but she knew she had to try. And fate was already moving both of them closer, closer to the act of kindness that would change everything. Rain started early that morning, thin at first, then stronger, turning the streets shiny and slick. Mia hurried along the sidewalk with her small umbrella, trying to protect the folder that held her printed scholarship application. She had spent most of the night preparing it after her mother fell asleep. Her eyes were tired and her stomach was empty, but her heart was full of a shaky kind of hope. She checked her watch. She still had time to stop by the pharmacy to ask about cheaper medicine, then catch the bus to work. But halfway down the street, she froze. A small boy, maybe 6 or 7, was standing near the edge of the road. His coat was too big for him, and his shoelaces were undone. He was crying quietly, wiping his face with both hands as cars passed too close. "Hey," Mia said softly as she approached him. "Are you lost?" The boy looked up with red eyes. I can't find my mom," he said between gasps. "She was right behind me, but She's gone. Mia knelt in front of him. Rain soaked her legs, but she didn't care. Okay, don't worry, we'll find her. What's your name, Jamie? He sniffed. All right, Jamie, stay with me, okay? Don't go near the street. He nodded, clutching the strap of his small backpack. Mia looked around. People were rushing past. No one seemed to notice a child crying alone. She gently held Jamie's hand and led him toward a safer area under a shop awning. Where did you see your mom last? Mia asked. We got off the bus, Jamie said. She told me to stay close because of the rain, but people were pushing and I lost her. A sudden honk blasted through the air. Mia spun around just in time to see Jamie slipping away from her, running toward a crosswalk where a delivery truck was coming too fast on the wet road. Jamie, she cried. She dropped her umbrella. It hit the ground and rolled away. Mia ran. Everything happened in seconds, the truck skidding, Jamie freezing in fear, the driver yelling in the rain, making the world blurry. Mia reached the boy and grabbed him around the waist. She pulled him back just as the truck screeched past, splashing water everywhere. They fell onto the wet pavement, Mia shielding Jamie with her body. The driver stopped and shouted something angry out the window, but Mia hardly heard him. Her heartbeat was loud in her ears. Jamie clung to her, shaking. It's okay, she whispered, brushing his hair back. You're safe. You're okay. A shadow moved across them. Mia. She looked up, shocked. Daniel stood there, drenched in rain, wearing simple but clean clothes. Not the homeless disguise, not the careful street look, just himself, the version she had not yet met. His eyes were wide with worry. Are you hurt? Is he hurt? We're fine, Mia said, breathing hard. I think so. Daniel bent down. Hey, buddy, he said gently to Jamie. We'll find your mom, okay? Jamie nodded slowly, still shaking. Daniel looked at Mia again, really looked. She was soaked, trembling, and pale from fear, but she still held the child protectively. You saved his life, Daniel whispered. Mia shook her head. I just reacted. That was enough, he said softly. Before she could answer, they heard a woman's voice calling in panic. Jamie, Jamie jumped up. Mom! A woman came through the crowd, her face wet from rain and tears. She hugged her son tightly, almost crushing him in her arms. Oh God, I thought I lost you. Mia stood up slowly, wiping her hands on her wet clothes. He's okay, she said. Just scared. Thank you, the woman said, holding Jamie close. Thank you so much. She hurried away with her son, clutching him like he was the most precious thing on earth. Mia exhaled, feeling the adrenaline draining out of her body. Her hands were still shaking. Her knees felt weak. Daniel stepped closer. Mia, are you okay? She blinked at him. Rain trickled down her face. Why are you here? I wanted to see you, he admitted. I didn't expect to find you risking your life for a child in the middle of the street. She stared at him. She didn't know what to say. The boy she met last night had seemed lost, fragile. But the man standing in front of her now looked confident and steady, though still carrying something sad in his eyes. You look, different, she said quietly. He smiled a little. I wasn't exactly myself yesterday. Mia folded her arms, suddenly uncomfortable. So you lied, yes, he answered honestly. But not for the reason you think. She waited. He took a deep breath. My father wanted me to understand real life, the hard parts. So I went out there dressed like that. I didn't expect anyone to notice me. I didn't expect anyone to care. Mia looked away. Rainwater dripped from her hair onto her shoulders. And you, he continued softly, you had nothing but you still shared what you had. No one has ever done that for me. That's not true, Mia said instinctively. People help each other all the time. Not in my world, Daniel replied. There was no anger in his voice, only truth. She didn't know what to say to that. Her clothes were soaked. She was cold. She had somewhere to be. But Daniel's eyes held her in place. Let me help you, he said suddenly. What? No, you almost got hit by a truck, he said. You're shaking, Mia. Please. She backed up a step. I can't accept anything from you. I don't even know who you really are. Daniel hesitated, then said it quietly. I'm Daniel Hayes. The name hit her like a shock. She had seen that name on the scholarship poster, on billboards, on products she couldn't afford, on TV, everywhere. You're that Daniel Hayes, she whispered. He nodded, rain dripping from his hair. Mia looked stunned, confused, tired, and scared. Daniel saw all of it. I'm not asking for anything, he said gently. I just want to return the kindness you gave me. Let me at least take you somewhere warm. You look freezing. She pressed her lips together. She didn't trust easy offers. She didn't trust luck. But her legs were shaking. She wasn't sure if she could even walk far. Finally, she said, only for a few minutes. Daniel nodded relief, softening his features. Of course. He walked beside her, matching her slow pace, careful not to overwhelm her. They headed toward a small cafe across the street. Neither of them knew that this moment, this rain-soaked act of courage, had just changed the direction of both their lives. And from here, nothing would ever be the same. The cafe door opened with a soft bell sound, and warm air rushed toward them. Mia stepped inside first, shivering as the heat touched her soaked skin. Behind her, Daniel Hayes closed the door, water dripping from his sleeves. A woman behind the counter looked up. Rough weather, huh, she said. Mia nodded, her teeth almost chattering. Could we sit for a bit? Anywhere you like. Daniel guided her to a small booth near the back. The cafe smelled of coffee and warm pastries, and for a moment Mia felt like she could breathe again. Sit, Daniel said gently. Mia sat down slowly. Her clothes clung to her skin. Her hands shook as she tried to wipe rain from her face. Wait here, Daniel said before she could argue. He walked to the counter, ordered 2 hot drinks and something to eat. The woman behind the counter blinked when she saw the card he handed her. Are you, please, Daniel said softly. Just keep it quiet. When he returned, he placed a steaming cup in front of Mia. Hot chocolate, he said. You look like you could use it. She hesitated, then wrapped her hands around the cup. Warmth spread into her fingers, soothing the painful cold. You didn't have to do this, she said quietly. I wanted to, Daniel replied. For a moment, neither spoke. Rain tapped softly on the windows. Mia took a small sip. Sweet, warm, comforting. She closed her eyes for a second. Better, Daniel asked. A little. He watched her carefully. He wanted to say something, but he didn't want to scare her. She already looked overwhelmed. Mia glanced at him. So you're really a Hayes, as in the Hayes Group? She pointed toward the logo printed on her application folder. Hayes Group. Daniel nodded. I am. And the man who sent me out on the street pretending to be homeless is my father. Lawrence Hayes. Mia took a slow breath. You must think I'm strange, he said softly. No, Mia said, shaking her head. I think you're someone trying to understand the world. Daniel's eyes softened. And maybe, Mia continued, that's harder than people think. He smiled, small, grateful. After a minute of silence, Daniel asked, what were you doing before the rain started? You looked like you were in a hurry. Mia blinked. Oh, I had an application to send for the Hayes Scholarship Program. Daniel's heart jumped. You applied, I'm trying, she whispered. I don't know if they'll accept me. Girls like me don't get chances like that. Girls like you, Daniel frowned. What does that mean? Mia sighed, her voice soft. Poor, working since I finished school, taking care of my mom, no connections, no special skills. Daniel leaned forward. You risked your life today for a child you didn't even know. You shared your food with a stranger. You're brave and kind. If anyone deserves a chance, it's you. Heat rose to Mia's cheeks and she looked down at her cup. But I don't want special treatment, she said. Not because you're who you are, I understand, Daniel said gently. You won't get special treatment, but you will get my support. She met his eyes. I mean it, he said. Let me help you prepare. Interview practice. Resume help. Anything. You don't even know me. I want to. Her breath caught slightly. Daniel continued. Please, let me do something for you. You helped me when I was pretending to have nothing. Let me repay that kindness honestly. Mia hesitated. She felt fear of hope, fear of depending on anyone, fear of being disappointed. But she also felt a small spark rising inside her, something she hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. Okay, she whispered. But just help. Nothing more. Nothing more, Daniel agreed, though something warm moved behind his eyes. They talked for a while longer. Mia told him about her mother's illness, her father's death, the tiny apartment, the struggle to pay rent. Daniel listened without interrupting, his jaw tightening with every detail. You shouldn't have to carry all that alone, he said. Life doesn't always give you a choice, she replied. Daniel wanted to say something, something protective, something hopeful, but he stopped himself. Too much, too soon. When they finished their drinks, Daniel stood. Let me walk you home. I can go alone, she said quickly. I know, he said, but I want to make sure you get there safely. She swallowed. It felt strange letting someone help her, but she nodded. Outside, the rain had become a gentle drizzle. They walked slowly through narrow streets, talking softly. Daniel asked questions, careful ones. Mia answered some avoided others. She wasn't used to being listened to. When they reached her building, she stopped. This is it. Daniel stared up at the worn structure. His chest tightened. No person, especially not Mia, should have to live somewhere so fragile. Can I meet your mom someday? Daniel asked softly. Mia blinked in surprise. Why? Because she raised someone incredible. Mia's breath hitched. She looked away quickly. You should go, she whispered. People will talk if they see someone like you here. Daniel took a step closer. I don't care what people say. But I do, she said softly. He stopped. He understood. Her life was delicate. A rumor could break it. I'll text you tomorrow, Daniel said. I don't have a good phone, Mia admitted. It only works sometimes. Daniel smiled gently. Then I'll come find you at the cafe. She nodded slowly. Good night, Mia. Good night, Daniel. He stepped back, watching until she safely entered the building. As he walked away, he felt something warm in his chest. Mia didn't know it yet, but Daniel was already planning how to lift her out of this life, not by force, not by pity, but by giving her every tool she needed to rise on her own. And inside her tiny apartment, Mia leaned against the door, her heart beating fast. She didn't understand why this man cared. She didn't want to believe it, but she couldn't stop the small, trembling hope that grew inside her. Outside, the rain finally stopped, but something new had started, quiet, gentle, and impossible to ignore. The next week moved quickly, too quickly for Mia, who felt as if every day brought new pressure. She woke early, rushed to work, cared for her mother, and spent her nights practicing interview questions with Daniel's help. He visited the cafe every evening, always sitting at the same corner table, waiting with a gentle smile and a notebook full of tips. But not everyone liked this new routine, especially not Lena, one of Mia's coworkers. Lena had worked at the cafe for 2 years. She always complained about her life, her pay, and her customers, but she also always watched people closely, especially Mia. One evening, just as Mia finished taking an order, Lena grabbed her arm and pulled her behind the counter. What's going on with you, Lena? Hissed. Mia blinked, confused. What do you mean, that guy? Lena said, jerking her head toward Daniel, who was reviewing something on his phone. The rich one. Why is he here every day? Why is he talking to you? Mia pulled her arm back. He's just helping me prepare for something. Oh, really? Lena snorted. Helping you. Right. Because rich men always help poor girls for no reason. That's not fair, Mia said quietly. What's not fair, Lena shot back, is you getting attention while the rest of us work like dogs. Mia felt a pinch in her chest. I didn't ask for attention. But you got it, Lena snapped. And if you think I'm going to let you take some scholarship or fancy job while I stay here washing dishes forever, you're dreaming. Mia stared at her stunned. She had never seen this side of Lena, not with such sharp anger. Before she could respond, a voice came from behind them. Is everything okay, Daniel? Lena straightened immediately, giving him a fake sweet smile. Oh, everything is fine. Just work stuff. Daniel nodded slowly, but his eyes went to Mia, reading the tension on her face. Ready for practice, he asked her softly. She nodded. Just let me finish clearing table 7. Lena watched them walk back toward the tables and muttered under her breath, let's see how long your luck lasts. The next day was Mia's interview at the Hayes Foundation office. She wore her best clothes, clean, simple, a little worn, but neat. Her mother hugged her at the door. You'll do great, she said, though. Her voice trembled. I hope so, Mia whispered. Daniel had offered to drive her, but Mia refused. She didn't want to look like she was using him. So she took the bus, gripping her folder tightly as she rode through the city. When she arrived at the tall building, her stomach twisted. The lobby was huge, polished floors, high ceilings, shining lights. She felt like a small shadow in a giant world. She checked in and waited with other candidates. Some wore expensive clothes. Some had perfect resumes. Mia felt her hands getting cold. Daniel wasn't allowed inside the interview room, but he stayed downstairs waiting. After 20 minutes, a woman called her name, Mia Alvarez. She stood, took a deep breath, and walked in. The interview panel consisted of 3 people, 2 women and 1 man. They asked her questions about her goals, her work, her life struggles, her dreams. At first, Mia stumbled. Her voice shook. Her fingers trembled. But then she remembered Daniel's words. Just tell the truth. Your truth is enough. She lifted her head. She spoke about her mother's illness, about losing her father, about working 2 jobs, about helping others even when she had little, about wanting a chance, a real chance to build a better life. When she finished, the room was quiet for a moment. One of the women smiled gently and said, Thank you, Mia. That was very sincere. Mia nodded and left her heart pounding. Downstairs, Daniel stood when he saw her. How was it I think I did okay, she said, her voice shaking with both fear and pride. Daniel smiled. I'm sure you did. But not everyone was smiling. Across the lobby, hidden behind a column, stood Lena. She had followed Mia. Her eyes burned with jealousy. And she wasn't alone. Next to her was a tall man in a suit, Richard Vale. Richard Vale, one of the mid-level managers at the Hayes Foundation. He had a reputation for choosing candidates based on bribes or favors, not merit. So that's the girl, Richard whispered, watching Mia and Daniel walk toward the exit. The one Hayes' son is helping. Yes, Lena said, folding her arms. She's pretending to be all sweet and innocent. But she's using him. Richard smirked. If she gets accepted, I'll have the board breathing down my neck. His father will wonder why Daniel is suddenly interested in our program. Lena leaned closer. Then make sure she doesn't get accepted. Richard's eyes narrowed. I can do more than that. Lena raised an eyebrow. What do you mean I can show the board she's a fraud? Richard whispered. Someone who lies. Someone who takes advantage of people. Someone who pretends to be poor to gain sympathy. Lena stared silently, encouraging him. Richard smirked. Leave it to me. 2 days later, disaster struck. Mia arrived at the cafe to find everyone staring at her, whispering, pointing. She stopped at the doorway. What's going on? Mr. Patel came toward her, slowly holding his phone. Mia, he said, I'm so sorry. He turned the screen toward her. Her heart dropped. A post was going viral online. A photo of Mia sitting in the cafe with Daniel smiling shyly as he helped her with her application. The caption read, Poor girl manipulates billionaire's son for money and favors. Pretends to be struggling to get special treatment. The comments were worse. She's a gold digger. She's obviously faking it. She wants his money. Girls like this make me sick. Her legs went weak. I didn't, Mia whispered. This isn't true. Daniel entered the cafe a moment later, confused by the tension. When he saw the post, his expression turned dark with anger. Who did this? He asked, voice sharp. Lena stepped forward with fake innocence. Wow, Mia, I had no idea you had such connections. Mia stared at her. You shared this, I just reposted what people were already saying. Lena shrugged. If it isn't true, I worry. Daniel's fists clenched. You know this isn't true. Lena shrugged again. Well, the internet seems to think otherwise. Mr. Patel gave Mia a pained look. I can't have drama in my cafe. Customers are asking questions. Maybe it's better if you take a break. Mia shook her head. This isn't my fault. I know, Mr. Patel said softly, but I have a business to protect. Tears stung Mia's eyes. She turned away, but Richard Vale stood at the doorway, arms crossed. Mia, he said in a cold tone, the board saw the post. They want to review your application again, possibly withdraw it. She took a trembling step back. Why we don't accept students who lie to get attention, Richard said. And we don't want scandals. Daniel stepped forward, voice sharp. This is ridiculous. She didn't do anything wrong. Richard smirked. You would say that, but the board will decide. He turned and walked out. Mia felt the world closing in around her. Her job, her scholarship, her dignity, everything slipping away because of a lie. I didn't do anything, she whispered. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder. I know, and I won't let them do this to you. Lena rolled her eyes. Please, you can't save everyone, Daniel. Daniel turned to her, voice icy. But I can expose the ones who do harm. Lena flinched. He looked back at Mia, his voice gentler. We'll fix this, I promise. But Mia's heart was breaking. Fear twisted inside her chest. Her future, her chance was hanging by a thread, and someone powerful was trying to cut it. The fight wasn't over. It was only beginning. The storm around Mia's life did not calm overnight. The cruel post kept spreading, and strangers continued judging her without knowing a single truth about who she was. Every hour brought more fear, more shame, more pressure. She barely slept. Her mother noticed immediately. Mihisha, what's wrong? Her mother asked, brushing her hand through Mia's hair. Mia forced a smile. It's just stress. The interview, work, everything. Her mother looked at her with soft, worried eyes. You're carrying too much alone. Mia swallowed hard. I'm okay. But she wasn't. By morning, she felt fragile, like one more cruel word could shatter her. When she reached the cafe to speak to her boss, she found a small crowd waiting outside. It wasn't customers. It was Daniel. And beside him were 3 security officers from his family's company and a neatly dressed woman holding a folder of documents. Daniel, Mia whispered. He turned instantly, his eyes softening with relief when he saw her. Mia, I've been waiting for you. She looked at the group behind him. What is all this? Daniel stepped closer, his voice steady but warm. We found out who started the rumor. Mia froze. It wasn't just one person, he continued. Someone created the fake story. Someone else spread it. Someone reported it to the foundation board with false claims. I have proof. Her breath trembled. Who, but she already knew. At that moment, the cafe door opened, and Lena stepped out holding her phone. She paled when she saw the group waiting outside. Morning, she said, trying to act natural. The neatly dressed woman stepped forward. Lena Romero. Lena stiffened. Yes, I'm from the Hayes Foundation's Internal Ethics Department, the woman said. We have clear evidence showing that you sent a falsified complaint to one of our managers and helped circulate defamatory content about a scholarship applicant. Lena's face slowly drained of color. Daniel stepped beside the woman, his face cold. You didn't just anything, Lena. You tried to ruin her. I didn't mean yes. Daniel interrupted, you did. People gathered around them watching. Then Mr. Patel emerged from the cafe, eyes wide and sad. He looked at the woman from the foundation. Is this true? Yes, she replied. We traced the complaint to her device. Mr. Patel looked devastated. Lena. Why, Lena trembled but said nothing. The ethics officer continued. You will receive a formal notice. The foundation may pursue legal action. Lena choked on a breath, tears filling her eyes. Please, please don't do this. I need this job. Mr. Patel closed his eyes. Then he whispered, you hurt someone who never hurt you. You caused trouble for everyone here. I'm sorry, but you can't stay. He stepped aside clearly, pained but firm. Lena began crying, rushing past the crowd as she disappeared down the street. Her collapse was loud, messy, and full of regret, but Mia felt no victory, only sadness, because she knew how jealousy could twist a person's heart. When the crowd finally dispersed, Daniel turned back to Mia. It's over, he said gently. The truth is out. Mia felt her knees weaken. Daniel reached out, steadying her with one hand on her arm. I'm so sorry you went through that, he said. You didn't deserve any of it. Mia blinked back tears. Thank you for helping me. Daniel shook his head softly. I didn't help. I just fought for what was true. The ethics officer stepped closer. Mia, the Hayes Foundation Board has seen the evidence. Your application is not only safe, they requested that you come meet them again today. They want to apologize in person. Mia gasped. They want me to come. Yes, the woman replied warmly, and they're impressed by your honesty and strength. When the officers left, Daniel remained standing close. Mia looked at him with teary eyes. I thought everything was over, she whispered. I thought I ruined my chance. You didn't ruin anything, Daniel said softly. They tried to break you, but you didn't break. Her voice trembled. I was so scared. Daniel stepped closer, but he moved slowly, giving her space to pull away if she wished. She didn't. I know you were, he said, and you don't have to face things alone anymore. Not if you don't want to. Mia looked up at him, her eyes full of worry and hope. I don't want to be a burden, she whispered. You could never be a burden, he replied. His voice was quiet, honest. You helped me when you had nothing. Let me be here for you when I have everything. Silence stretched between them, soft but full of meaning. Then Mia asked, why are you doing all this? Really, Daniel took a slow breath. Because you make me want to be someone better, someone honest, someone brave. You opened my eyes to a world I ignored, and when the whole world judged you, I couldn't stand back and watch. Her heart swelled painfully. He continued, his voice shaking slightly. I care about you, Mia. I care deeply. She felt warmth spread through her chest, fear mixed with relief, hope with disbelief. Daniel, she whispered. He shook his head gently. You don't have to say anything now. I know your life is complicated. You have your mother, your responsibilities, your dreams. I won't push you, Mia swallowed. I've never had someone stand up for me like that. Never. Then let me be the first, Daniel said. A tear slid down her cheek. He wiped it gently with his thumb. No more crying because of lies. Only because of things that matter. She let out a small, shaky laugh. You sound confident. I'm trying, he said softly. At last she whispered, I want you in my life too. I don't know what the future looks like, but I want you in it. Daniel exhaled relief, flooding his face. He wrapped his arms around her slowly, carefully, and Mia let herself lean into him. It was the first safe place she had felt in years. They stayed like that for a long moment. When they finally pulled apart, Daniel whispered, "Let's go show the foundation who you really are." Mia nodded, her heart steady for the first time in days. Together they walked toward the future side by side. No lies, no fear, ready for a new beginning. The sun was gentle that morning, soft and warm, as if the sky itself wanted to bless the beginning of Mia's new life. She stood outside the tall, polished building of the Hayes Foundation, wearing the cleanest outfit. She had her hair neatly tied back. This time she wasn't trembling, because Daniel Hayes was standing beside her, his hand brushing lightly against hers. Inside, the board members welcomed her warmly. They apologized for the unfair treatment, for believing lies, and for not protecting her sooner. Then they handed her an official acceptance letter for the scholarship, the work program, and a small living stipend to help her care for her mother. When Mia held the letter in her hands, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Security, hope, a chance. Daniel stood behind her, smiling with quiet pride. He didn't speak, not wanting to take away her moment. But when she looked back at him, their eyes met, and she knew he was part of this new beginning. The weeks that followed were full of change. Mia and her mother moved into a clean, safe apartment near the training center the foundation provided. Her mother received proper medical attention, at last given by a doctor from the Hayes family's recommended clinic, Harbor View Community Clinic, and her health slowly improved. Mia started classes and work training at the Hayes offices. She learned about communication, computer skills, organization, and business fundamentals. At first, she felt out of place among the shiny floors and quiet hallways, but Daniel checked on her almost every day. How was class? Did you eat lunch? Need help with the homework? Want to walk home together? He asked gently, never pushing, always present. Sometimes they sat on a bench outside the building, laughing quietly about small things. Sometimes they walked through the park on weekends, with her mother, who had grown fond of Daniel's respectful manners and soft voice. And in the evenings, when the city lights came on, Mia would look at Daniel and feel warmth in her chest, not fear, not doubt. Something real, something growing. One afternoon near the end of her first training month, Daniel took Mia to the rooftop garden of the Hayes headquarters, Hayes Tower Rooftop Garden. It overlooked the whole city. The sky was pink and gold from the setting sun. "Mia," Daniel said softly, "do you remember the first time we met?" She smiled. "I saw you sitting on the street. I thought you were cold." "I was," he said, "but not from the weather." She looked at him with gentle eyes. "I had everything," Daniel continued, "but I felt empty. I felt unseen. And then you gave me food without hesitation. You didn't know who I was. You didn't want anything from me." He paused. That moment changed me. Mia felt her breath catch. Daniel stepped closer. "You showed me kindness when I had nothing to offer. You saved a child without thinking about your own safety. You faced lies and cruelty with courage." His voice softened. "And you let me stand beside you." He took her hands in his. "Mia," he whispered, "I don't want to imagine my life without you. Will you stay with me? Not because of money, not because of help, but because I love you. Truly." Mia's heart felt full, so full it almost hurt. She had never thought someone like Daniel would say those words to someone like her, but he meant them. She saw it in his eyes. She stepped closer until their foreheads touched. "I love you too," she whispered. Daniel closed his eyes, smiling against her skin. He wrapped his arms around her, and Mia melted into his embrace. The city lights glowed beneath them, but the warmth between them was brighter than anything around. For a moment, the whole world felt still, safe, soft, new. A beginning built not on wealth nor pity, but on two hearts that learned to see each other clearly. Sometimes in life, the smallest act of kindness can open doors we never imagined. Sometimes the people we overlook carry the strongest hearts, and sometimes the person who seems the weakest is the one brave enough to change everything. Never look down on someone for being poor. Never assume you know their story. Real strength comes from caring for strangers, for family, for anyone who needs a hand. Because love and kindness can grow in the most unexpected places, even between a girl with nothing and a boy who once thought he had everything. What did you learn from Mia and Daniel's journey? Did their story touch your heart or remind you of someone in your life? Tell me in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed the story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. More emotional stories are coming soon just for you.